Hey guys, I'm Eric Lucero
And I'm Paul Berezetsky.
of Sharpen The Axe on EnterTalk Radio, powered by Pitbull Audio. And today we are going to check out some effects from Analog Alien.
Welcome to Sharpen the Axe. Explore the bleeding edge of guitar and bass gear. Discover a sound uniquely your own and cut through the noise. With your hosts, Eric Lucero and Paul Berezetsky.
All right, welcome guys. Welcome to another episode of Sharpen the Axe. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good, back at it.
Right on. Yeah, it's been a while away. We've been all in this post-NAMM mess and all kinds of good stuff happening at Pitbull Audio and some exciting stuff happening at EnterTalk Radio.
You guys got a lot of cool new lines going on there.
Yes, we do. We do have quite a few great new lines coming around. And we also have something pretty cool going on, a contest with Mission Engineering, which you can just check the link below and find out more about it, or go to pitbullaudio.com to check it out.
Basically, a whole ton of companies are putting up gear, about 25 companies. So it's a ton of pedals, a couple of guitars, amp, some pro audio stuff, microphones. It's just insane.
Cables,
And, we're doing it for 11 weeks, so 11 winners, and each winner is going to get like a package. They're going to get 2 to 3, maybe even more items if towards the end. So it's really huge. You definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, you should absolutely enter, because like you said, you're not just getting, one little pedal or a cool cable or something. You're getting a couple things. It's pretty neat.
It's pretty nuts.
And actually, one of the prizes on there
That's right.
is Analog Alien, which is a pretty awesome company out of Long Island, New York, and they sent us 3 of their pedals here. The Fuzz Bubble 45, which is a fuzz and overdrive in one box. The Bucket Seat, which is a drive unit, and the Alien Twister fuzz and buffer over there.
And we both got a chance to play around with these this week, and I really fell in love with this guy right here.
Yeah.
I like kind of vintagey stuff, like nice transparent vintage overdrives, and the fuzz on this thing. I'm normally not a fuzz guy, but I really, really like that.
Right, yeah, it's not quite on that sputtery, sort of broken sounding thing that's kind of popular nowadays. It's actually a little bit of a focused fuzz. What's kind of cool, we'll check it out right here. So to go over it real quick, there's the 2 sides, the overdrive, I almost can't say the words. The overdrive and fuzz side. The overdrive has the out level right there, and that's the amount of gain right there. They labeled it as year 67 to 77. Just like
Don't know how accurate it is, but it's pretty close.
Hey, why not? You can take the inspiration, right? Roll with it. End control right there, and you have a tone mini toggle for actually both the fuzz and the OD. And on the fuzz side, it is a level switch, or level knob, excuse me, the out, and the haze, which is the fuzz, which goes from 0 to 10. And down here, the effect actually switches between them, so you can't have them both on at the same time, but one or the other. So let's start right in it. Want to test it out?
Sure.
Thoughts on the tone, one side versus the other? It sounds like there's more bass presence.
Yeah, there's more bass, and I really dig that. It really fattens it up, especially when I'm playing this Strat. It's really kind of bright and crispy, but it can tend to be a little bit thin. So anything that gives it a little more oomph, I'm always a fan of.
Right, and then say you have something on the opposite end of the spectrum, like a big, nice, heavy mahogany body Les Paul. Maybe you want to take a little bit more clarity to it and switch it the other way. But I'm actually pretty pleased with the amount of gain that's on here, and sounds pretty great.
Yeah, and I actually really like, for the more kind of chunky drive stuff, I like the fuzz side better. This I really like kind of around like 11 o'clock, at least with my kind of setup with the Strat and the Mesa Boogie, where like...
Nice. Yeah, actually
Not-
fattens it up quite a bit.
Yeah, not too distorting, not too fuzzy, but it really gives you like you got the clarity there, and you got a little bit of extra oomph, and I just really kind of like where it lives right there.
It's I could definitely imagine this circuit also pushing an amp that already is starting
Yeah.
to break up.
Yeah.
This side would definitely add just a little bit of extra kick that would sound fantastic and fatten it up if it's something that's more on the chimey side, like say a Princeton or something like that. But definitely pretty neat. Now let's check out the fuzz side over here.
All right.
I'm gonna start with it at noon. Go for it. Very, very nice sounding as well.
Yeah.
And it has the same effect on the tone. To the right is more bass, to the left is less, but it is a little bit more, just full. It's a very full fuzz with a pretty good amount of
Let's
mids.
hear it with the P90s in there. I'm outgunned as usual.
Hey, yours cuts a bit in a different way than mine, for sure, but two different demonstrations. But I mean, still, that fuzz sounds great on some cutting single coils, or well, these are single coils too, but P90s, which have a little bit more mid-range and bark. But the fuzz side of this Fuzz Bubble 45 here is just carrying itself very well. A very, very cool fuzz indeed. And you said you weren't much of a fuzz guy generally, right?
Generally not, but I really dig this one.
Right?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Next would be the bucket seat, which is a drive, a nice simple drive with just the output, tone, and gain right there. But you know what? It is a really cool gain stage. I liked it stacked with other things such as the fuzz or the overdrive out of the fuzz bubble. But let's hear it by itself. Start with everything at noon there to show the sweeps. Very, very thick,
Yeah.
creamy drive.
Yep.
It is definitely meant for like well, of course you can't use it for just this, but it is great for rhythm. Like when I first tried it out at home, first thing that came to mind actually was like Malcolm Young or something like that. It was very, very thick. But it's just thick. That's what I love about it. It's a great rhythm, but as you were demonstrating, it's great on the leads too. Now, would you find something like this on your board? More
Sure.
of a thicker sort of.
Yeah. Thick overdrive, I'm all day.
Nice. Now, if we could try just before we move on to the Twister, I love this thing stacked with others and a little bit darker. So, driving the fuzz actually.
So that's it by itself. That's with the fuzz.
Yeah, you got this great cutting fuzz like we were just talking, and using that really exaggerating in a good way tone stack on there with just a little bit of gain to tame it down and takes it to that kind of desert rock territory that I like on the lead side. It was very, very cool. Now, one more right over there, the Alien Twister. What'd you think of this one when you tried it out?
I got dropped on my head when I was a baby, so when I first tried it out, I thought it was broken because the stab knob right here was turned all the way down.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like right here where it's kind of in sputter, and I was like, I think this thing is busted.
Yeah, yeah. It could definitely trick you if you just plugged it in for sure.
So
like,
don't whoever wins this thing, don't be scared. Just that's how it goes. But yeah, it's.
It almost is a better way to almost start with it, like all the way open.
Yeah.
But it is the in control, the input gain, the output level, and the stab is like starving a battery, like when your 9-volt is running out, and it kind of gives it a sputtery, more Velcro-y sort of sound. It's pretty cool. Another cool feature of the Alien Twister here is that buff right there, which of course, as you probably guessed at home, is a buffer, which helps, in short, just keeps your tone. A lot of cable runs and a lot of pedals end up with what you call tone suck, a little bit of loss of treble, and a buffer just kicks it right back into where it should be. Whatever's coming in is coming out exactly with no loss. So here, I'll go on the treble, on the bridge pickup of my EGC here, and we'll test it with the buffer on and off. So got a little bit more high-end chime coming back at that full tone. Especially that makes it advantageous to put it either if you have a long cable going in front at the front of your pedal board or at the end. Usually you put fuzzes at the front though, so yeah, it probably makes more sense to put it in front. But enough of me yammering. Let's give this one a try. This is a nice and mean sounding though.
Yeah, very mean. That's kind of, this is also a fuzz that I was getting into when I was trying these out. Like it got this like aggression where you really kind of
right, yeah,
makes you play something, want to play something really nasty and aggressive.
And it's still throaty though in a cool way on that lead side. Now, how about we
mess with the stab?
Yes, yeah, mess with the stab a little. There you go. If we'll leave it like, let's say a little bit up just to get. There it is. That's that kind of gating effect of that dying battery sound, which makes it pretty cool. Now, a buffer does have a bit of an effect on the fuzz, so how about you play and I'll turn it on and off. Nice. Also awesome to hear some Edgar Winter for a second there. But you can definitely hear the effect that a buffer has on a fuzz, and I mean that was a thing with a lot of vintage fuzzes. With a buffer without, cause problems with people's pedal boards. So it's kind of cool that you have the option to turn it on or off now. But yeah, you want a good, mean, just woolly beast of a fuzz, that Alien Twister is definitely a great, great choice.
And it comes with...
Oh yeah, that's right. We should have grabbed them. We don't have them in front of us, but the Alien Twister comes with a little bottle of Alien Twister hot sauce, which unfortunately I didn't get to try, but I'm sure it's delicious.
I didn't realize what that was when I opened the box. I thought it was maybe like, like neck polish, like lemon oil or something. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Oh, they give you some fretboard oil. Isn't that great? I would have loved. That actually would have been nice if you had. If it would have had a nice spice in the air, like you had just cooked if you had oiled up your fretboard with it. But also rather awesome was the Fuzz Bubble 45 came with a little, bubble blower thing.
Right.
In there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's right.
And bucket. I don't think the bucket seat came with anything. I don't recall.
I don't remember.
But still, nonetheless, I still love the bucket seat. I love all three of these. They are really awesome, great build pedals that sound killer. And,
I concur.
Right on. Well, in the next segment, we're going to talk to Joe and Jack. So
The guys that behind these pedals,
Yeah,
we're going
the two
to
brothers.
call them right now, and they could tell us a little bit more about all the craziness that went into it. Through the magic of modern technology, all the way from Long Island, New York.
all phones over computers.
Please welcome
There
Jack
they
and
are.
Joe.
Hey guys.
Hey, we're here. Live from Long Island after the snowstorm.
Yeah. And you guys were able to dig your way out. You're not trapped, right?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
not trapped. We're okay.
We're all right.
Don't even get us
They're-
started on the snow, man.
They're
We
clean
just-
shaven. It doesn't look like they've been stuck in the studio for 3 weeks or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, right.
Well, this was supposed to be a radio interview, and all of a sudden it went to
Oh,
live
man, here we are.
Skype, and we're like, oh, God.
Skyping.
But anyway, thanks for
Cool.
having us, guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries.
Good to
We're
have
very
you.
glad you could join us. Yeah. So give us a little rundown about the history of Analog Alien. How'd you guys start and when?
Okay.
Go, Marie, go.
I guess it was about 7 or 8 years ago now. My brother and I had been in a band together since we were kids. Jack played guitar. He's my older brother. And he played guitar, and he came to me with a pair of drumsticks and said, I'm forming a band, and you're my drummer. And he So, of course, I listened, and we played for a lot of years together. We built a home recording studio, which is another story. And as the band progressed and things just developed as they do as a band develops, I became really good at engineering and getting things where they needed to go. So Jack, again, with another idea, decided we're going to build a professional recording studio, which we did. It's called Cloud9 Recording. We built it. It's almost 20 years ago now, about 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've had some really good success here. I guess one of the biggest things we did was Joan Jett brought a band here, the Blackheart Records, brought a band called The Vacancies. Great, amazing punk band. And we did an album here with them, and it was very good, and it was great. And that kind of developed further, and the studio had great success. And in it, we decided, okay, Jack started producing more records and stuff, and bands would come in. And one of the big things that was always a problem was getting great guitar sounds. And I gave up on the pedal thing a long time ago. And Jack has a tremendous guitar collection and amp collection, and that's what we would kind of do. And Jack said to me, I said to Jack, I said, one day, I said, if we could develop a really great guitar pedal that could actually give us, a unique sound and be more versatile than these other ones, this would be great. So he decided to go for it, and he did. And he brought a pedal into the studio.
Go figure.
So you said you gave up on pedals because you weren't really happy. You weren't able to dial in.
Yeah, we weren't really happy with what was going on with them. Like every time I plugged the pedal in, it was like every guitar sounded the same through it. It was a kind of a personality sucker.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it never.
They did one thing, and
that was it. It was like there was one setting, and if you moved it at all, forget it. It was like you didn't get anything out of it, and it got to be. It was better to just grab a great guitar and a great amp and kind of go for it.
Right.
So anyway, Jack came up with an idea, and I was like, okay, great. And he brought a pedal in and had knobs and and wires hanging out of it and stuff. And it made a great sound for about, 10 minutes, and then it died. And I'm like, well, if we can get it to last longer than 10 minutes, we have something. So, not a quitter, my brother, let me tell you. So he went into the basement. 2 months later, he came up with this really slick box. And it looked really nice, like just clean metal, nicely labeled. All the knobs worked and they were in the proper positions. And that became the Fuzz Bubble 45.
Yeah, which you have
Really?
right
Nice.
Yeah,
So that was
right.
the first one,
Actually, we should have put the prototype. We actually have the prototype in a blank box that we used to use here for sessions.
Wow.
We have it. We still have the
Well,
prototype.
what happened
yeah.
was kids started using it, bands
Yeah.
started using it, and they were like, "We want one." Now, when Jack made the original prototype, he literally etched his own board, like took a bare copper board, made the trace, dipped it in acid, and then had to drill out every single little hole for every single component for the circuit, and it's a lot of work. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to build you a guitar pedal. Are you kidding me? This took like months to build this little box. So after about the 12th or 15th person, I think, who actually came in, Jack was like, I think we're going to manufacture these. We're going to sell guitar pedals. And I was like, yeah, good luck. And I went back to engineering. I was like, that's crazy idea. And then slowly but surely, he was like, no, I'm telling you, we should do this. And he wore me down. And I said, all right, let's do it. And we did. And then that became the Fuzz Bubble 45, and it started from there. And that's kind of how it all started. And then it goes on further than that, but that's, I think, all the time we have. I don't want to keep and let you guys do questions, but I'll fill in when I can. But for the technical stuff, I'll point to my
Go like this. It's your thing.
Right.
But that's how it started. They were born in Cloud9 recording. That's how it started.
Yeah, everything we do stems from this recording
music,
studio.
trying to make music. Drummer, guitarist,
very
in a band. How do you get the most out of what you buy? Like, we were kids. We didn't have any money. To get delay, I mean, we used to take a microphone from the basement studio, run it out up on top of our parents' roof, drop it in the chimney, and then stick a guitar amp in the fireplace so that you can get...
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. that is the most analog delay I have ever heard of. Wow.
Yeah.
And then to get, like, we did a song my brother wrote called War in the 80s, and there was a snare drum part. It was like basically a marching snare drum. I was one drummer, so how do you do it? We had literally out in the back in January, freezing cold, 2 SM81s pointing straight up and 2 PZMs pasted on windows of the house. And our neighbors.
Yeah, it was a cool drum track. It wasn't
hated
snowing, though.
But no, it was freezing. He didn't care. I mean, he's in the basement nice and warm. It was the drummer was outside freezing. And I would play, but that's how we would do stuff. So it's born from that, and everything that we do, that's it. And even all this little stuff like the hot sauce that comes with the twister, if you guys noticed, and the bubbles that come with. It's like, we love Cracker Jack, man. You should always get a little something extra when you buy something, And the cooler bags, they come in handy, they do.
Yeah.
And we just want, like, that when we decided we were going to do this, we wanted to just do it like as if we were going to buy something. That's what we would like. So that was it.
Yeah, it definitely gives you kind of a little. I opened up the packages, and there's like each one is a little different. Each one comes with a little surprise you don't expect. It's pretty neat.
Cool.
Thanks. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, let's talk.
sounding
You have
killer.
questions, we'll answer the questions. We'll get into that. Let's talk about technical stuff, like what they do and what you think of them.
Or
and
whatever you want.
whatever you want. Yeah, we're here to,
We're here to.
Well, the thing that I'm digging probably the most out of this is the overdrive side of the Fuzz Bubble. Just really nice, kind of transparent, ballsy, vintagey overdrive. Like the bane of my existence is my gigging amp is this Mesa Boogie F50. It's loud as hell, and like to get any kind of like cleanish breakup to it, I can never play it that loud, so it's always super clean. And I'm always looking for like a nice drive to throw in front of it that'll just kind of break it up a little bit. And this thing like was just perfect. I was really loving it. So what did you do different from like all those other pedals that you said you weren't happy with in design?
It's modeled after a 59 Bandmaster, a Fender Bandmaster. That was the inspiration for that side of the pedal. And the reason why we chose that amp was because, we're lucky enough to own an old vintage one. We bought it long before the prices went through the roof. I mean, we're kind of old enough to, remember the 80s, and it was long before all of these tweed amps. I mean, it was the hair metal days, and they just were not in vogue anymore. And but we loved that. And what was happening is that when we started to accumulate quite a large amp collection here at the studio, and it was a big draw for us in the area because everybody wanted to come into the studio and use the amps. And what was happening was the price started going through the roof, and everyone was like, well, I want to buy your amp. and there's several Tweed amps here. In fact, the Joe Walsh Double Classic is modeled more after a 59 Deluxe, Tweed Deluxe, which is one of Joe's favorite amps. But that's the premise of it. And we, so we had the amplifier, and we're like, well, we can't sell you the amp, because if we sell the amp, we're going to have to go and buy another amp. So that's kind of like what led to it. So it's not like they were like tools. We just wanted to try and put a little amp in a box, and that's how it started. And that's how that whole section of the Fuzz bubble started that way. And it actually was only one circuit. And as we started to use it in the studio, Joe, because he's really the engineer here, he does more of that work than I do these days. We can see.
It's better.
If you want to get into the camera, I don't know if
Eric, Paul, if you could move into frame a little.
There he is. Hi, Paul. We're talking Eric, though. That great guy that interviewed us. NAMM, that great show. So anyway, so Joe said, "Can we do something, a little crazy?" So we started to throw like a little fuzz, but the fuzz side. See that pedal? Like you have to start to play with it. It doesn't go from a classic amp, loud distorted sound, to a heavy fuzz. If you start to just play with the two controls, simplicity is always the key. And if you play with the two controls, the output is just a sheer output. The year is just a little nod to, distortion through the years. And if you just dial that back a little bit, and then you start to play with the haze control on the fuzz bubble, on the fuzz side, and the input and output knobs, you could pretty much make the fuzz sound like the overdrive side. Not exactly, because it's a different circuit. It gets very close. So you'll find that it's very versatile. You can go from like a slightly crunchy overdrive rhythm guitar sound to a more heavier rhythm sound, or you can go from a heavier overdrive classic sound that Fender Bandmaster can give you to more of a bombastic fuzz sound. So like, the sky's the limit. I should say the sky's the limit, but there's a lot of versatility going on with it, and that really was the result of it being in the studio with us, and it being born in the studio, or conceived in the studio, so to speak.
And there is continuity from the two sides. They, when you hit the overdrive and then the fuzz, they don't sound like two completely different things. It's kind of almost like a continuation of the same idea, just with more aggression.
Yes, that was done on purpose, and we didn't want to be able to switch both of them on at the same time, because we've been asked to do that. Like, if you put them both on, it's like they kind of cancel each other out. Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
It's like you have a great horse and another great horse, and you breed them together, you get a fast horse. At some point, the horse doesn't fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At some point, you get a mule.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Exactly. So at some point, but that was the whole thing too. Like that pedal, it saved me a bunch of times in sessions, because you've got a great fuzz there if you need it, and a great overdrive. But if you've got just a great overdrive and you've got a great rhythm sound, and then you just want someone to go to a lead tone that still has like a good round crunch to it, and that kind of cuts through, and it's different. The tonal quality of the fuzz side, when it's in overdrive mode, as Jack was talking, it allows things to separate, but yet you're still with the same player, with the same guitar, in the same amp.
Yeah.
And hey,
That's
I
important.
hate to say it, but we'd all wish we could just move into a recording studio for 5 months and make a record. Yeah, that's wonderful. But the truth of the matter is that something always happens when you're trying to make a record. You either run out of time or you run out of money.
Well,
so the time factor of being able to get a pedal that does that much with one player, with one guitar, with one setup, and have that kind of versatility. It's a real big time saver and energy saver too. I think it keeps things more focused when a player can just be in and just go for it.
I would encourage you to really experiment with it too, insofar as just the different guitars that you would plug into it. The pedals, all our pedals have one thing in common, even if the overdrives are based or designed around different aspects. One's a little bit heavier, one's a little bit lighter, but they're not personality vacuums as suckers. They will not suck the tone or personality out of your guitar. And I think if you guys experiment with that, you're holding different guitars that are, they look drastically different from what I can see. I'm not sure the big configuration. No, but that's a cool thing, because what will happen a lot of times with those vintage amplifiers is that the one thing that they do is that they really bring out the characteristic of the guitar,
Right,
as
right.
opposed to more of the modern ones that have hotter preamps and they're designed a certain way and they have a function, and depending on the style of music that you play, they're fine for that. But those older amps allow I feel personally the character of the guitar to come through, and with that the individual playing style, and that's what the pedals do, and that's definitely built into each one of our pedals, that design aspect.
Well, it definitely comes through in terms of a very great high fidelity quality to them, and they are very amp-like, which actually makes me wonder, was the bucket seat also kind of designed after an amp preamp, or was that its own thing as well?
That was more of a Plex seat. If you know a little bit about the bucket seat, it's the same exact overdrive from the Rumble seat, which has been a very successful pedal for us. And the Rumble seat was a big nod to rockabilly, Brian Setzer in particular, because we're huge Brian Setzer fans. We think he's phenomenal. We've seen him I don't know how many times, but he's just great. And so we decided to stick a pedal together, or stick effects together that would kind of be in line with what he did. And originally that overdrive section was modeled more after an older Fender, blackface, they call them, because it was before CBS. If you know Fender history, CBS took Fender over in like about the mid-60s, and prior to that, the panel was black, had a blackface on, and then they changed it to silver. And I don't think they changed the circuitry right away. They changed it cosmetically, and later on they started to change the circuitry. But anyway, that particular amp from that era seems to be a favorite amongst a lot of the rockabilly players. So we said, all right, that'll be the amp section. Now what happened was, as we were designing it, Joe, because he does so much work in the studio, pointed out that a lot of the guitarists that were coming through that play that style had that amp. So he said, why are we giving them what they have? I mean, they have that amp. So I was like, oh man, but I really worked hard on getting his circuit down. He's like, and that's what they play. And he's like, well, that's the point, that's the point. So I started thinking about it. And the reverb was his idea too. I was just going to do the amp and the delay because I designed more of the aspect of it, and Joe always comes in later. But anyway, so the reverb was his afterthought that really, if I wasn't pushed over a cliff at that point, the reverb did it.
That pretty much did it.
But he started saying, I said, well, all right, then what would you do? What would you want? I mean, it's a blackface, so what would you want? He goes, how about a Marshall? I'm like, oh, come on. Then he goes, no, really, how about a Marshall? Like not a hot rod at 800 Marshall. How about like the old one we have, which we're lucky enough to own, the 69 Plexi. We bought a lot of these amps a long time ago before the price went through the roof. I don't think I'd really buy them today or I'd have to be real careful. It's like you could just take $400, buy the amp like you had it. Now it's like add a couple of zeros to it.
Yeah.
Well, we were lucky enough to do it when we did it. So I said, all right, we'll do an old Plexi. And then I started to fool with the gain structure of it. And that led to the rumble drive section of it. So at lower, which turned James Burton onto it, Joe Walsh. Joe got 3 of those and went on the road with the Eagles before he even called us and said, let's do a pedal together.
Wow.
So he was right. The blackface, I don't admit it too much, especially in public, but he was right. And it took the pedal out of different. I'm going to pay for this later, but it took the pedal out a different door, and it made it a lot more versatile, and it made it just more than a nod to rockabilly. And you can open that thing up, and you're in Zeppelin land. You could do a lot of Gilmore with it, and the Edge would definitely be jonesing on it, I think. And we got a lot of calls, not calls, but emails, requesting that, there's no offense, but we have an old tape echo. I have the amp. I have the reverb in the amp. Can you just give me the overdrive section? I love it so much. And it's like, well, it's not that easy because there's 2 big circuit boards in the pedal, and I can't take a bandsaw and cut them apart and make you a pedal. And well, anyway, we got enough emails, and we said, all right, you know what? We'll just give you the small. And what do we call it? So it's a bucket seat. It's the smaller
rumble
version.
Seat, bucket seat.
We're very like.
But what did you guys think of that when you played to it? I'm putting you on the spot, but putting us on the spot. But.
Thick, just creamy. It's just a great thick drive. The first thing that came to mind is in the previous segment I was saying that Malcolm Young came to mind first, actually, which made sense when I was that's why I was curious as to what circuit it was maybe inspired by. because the old AC/DC cranked Marshall sort of sound came to mind on it.
Great.
Yeah,
awesome,
that would be
awesome.
it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, good. We did it then.
But if you really take the gain control and you lower it, and you start to get those James Burton, Johnny Highland,
Okay.
he has a bucket seat. He's an analog alien artist now. He just came on board with us.
Yeah.
And we just
Congrats
sent him
on
a
that.
bucket seat, and he's been using it like crazy, and he loves it, and he wants to a couple more pedals too. So we'll definitely accommodate. But yeah, he's a big fan of the bucket seat. Heard in the studio and contacted us and wanted to, definitely get a hold of one and become an artist. So that's quite a compliment right there.
That is a very good compliment. He's definitely an incredible player. We're gonna have Paul try out the lower gain Burton style. And where would you guys say to put the tone on that?
What do you? I'd have to hear it there. I tried up the middle first. It's a wide sweep, so you can't go wrong starting up the middle with it.
All right, let's kick it on.
That's it. Better. You got it. There you go. Increase the tone a little bit. I'm judging off the laptop, but you try to tone it more like 1 o'clock. Just a little bit more sparkle. I think you might have increased the output. The middle control.
The middle
you
control.
touch? Yeah, that's the one we're looking for. Put that at 1 and take the output back. The gain control, the blue knob, pull that back down.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can that's nice. You can actually take the gain down a little bit. You know what? Take the gain all the way down, and then you'll get a real feel for how wide the tone control is, how wide a sweep you actually have on that tone control. If you take the gain down, there's practically no gain in the circuit, and if you increase the output, it can really push an older vintage amp at that setting, because you can get some hot. It gets very, very hot. I mean, as you've experimented with it, so you can open it up and you can really, you could drive, the signal very, very hard. But if you start with the blue knob, the gain control way down, all the way off, you'll start to get a feel for how the actual circuit and the tonal quality of the circuit before you introduce the gain to it. It's almost like before you open an amp up, you start to get, if you put the amp on 2 or 3, especially the old Fenders, you get a feel for how they sound and how it's affecting the guitar, or how the guitar is affecting it, I should say.
Give it a shot.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it. See, that's a little more like Stevie Ray Vaughan-ish and stuff, and that's because you can hear the individual notes, but when you want to open it up, you can open it up. So there's a lot of versatility in the circuit, and it's what made the rumble seat so versatile, really, because then you had the delay and the and the reverb with the rumble seat, you get the whole 9 yards. But like I said, it's the same circuit, so.
Oh, well, definitely a lot more versatile of a drive than most people would think looking at a 3-knob drive.
Yeah.
But it's a lot is available in here, and yeah, it's always something people miss of just using the tone stack and the output to drive their amp instead of just relying on the gain in front. That's a very good tip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends on the amp too. They're all different, and everyone. What we found in the studio, which I know has actually helped design these pedals. The premise for designing them is we just deal with all different guitarists, and they have different amps, they have different styles, they have different guitars, they have, and we gave up taking, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but we gave up taking notes on all of this stuff a long time ago. We used to take notes down like, oh, this is the setup. We have to do this next time. And another band would come in and I'm going way back, like 20, 30 years ago. And be like, what the hell happened?
You changed the pick.
And what changed was the player and, but.
Change the pick that you use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even you pick. Yeah. No, true.
No,
true.
really. I've done it.
Yeah.
When we here at the studio, if I'm not watching, guitar players, especially who aren't very seasoned, who don't understand that the pick with plectrum like really makes a big difference in the tonal quality of what you're doing.
Big time.
All of a sudden, I'd be like, "What happened?"
What'd you do?
When I first started working as an engineer, I'd be like, "What they do? What I'd be, what did I hit? I must have moved something," and not realizing that they actually even changed.
We
the
have
pick.
one of the biggest pick collections. Let me just turn this. This is a diffuser that's in the back of the studio. It's a bi diffuser, and I'm not going to get into technically what it does because I don't want to be here all night. But anyway, it's
Bi-directional diffuser.
It's here for a reason.
It looks like a bunch of Jenga towers.
Yeah, but it's also, let's see if we can get it in.
It's also the most
expensive pick holder you'll ever. Let's show us Prince. We have every. Where is it?
So when a guitar player comes there, you make them put all your guitar picks away. They only get one, and they have to ask permission to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, not allowed to leave. Where are we? Oh, here I am. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where I am. I'm sorry. You do it. Here, you hold it. You seem to
No,
be able to get on.
I know.
I moved the computer, and I don't want to.
No, it's right. It's right there.
Oh, there we
the
go.
camera's right
Princess
there. Right?
Leia.
Yeah, but
Sweet.
all of them, I mean, just stop and think about it. Like the Edge, from U2, and Jimmy Page, I think too, used to use the Velcro picks. The back of had the bumps, and that gives you a totally different texture. Brian May used an English sixpence. It goes on and on and on, and it'll drastically change the tone. So again, it's the premise, like for making or designing these pedals the way we do is you always have to keep that in mind, that it's not about one guitarist or one sound. It's just like those old amps. You'll reach a point where even though, like, we go back to the Fuzz Bubble, the Bandmaster is one of the best amps to me, but if you're in a metal band or whatever, it's not going to do much for you. You're going to have to try something else because the gain structure is just not there with it. So so we haven't done a metal pedal yet. But that might come like in the future. We'll see. But anyway, that's what they're all about. And if you want to still hear your guitar, and you're playing, so I heard how you changed too a little bit there, Paul. The way when you back the gain down, you really got more into a rhythm mode right off the bat, because that's what happened when well, let's face it, right? I mean, if you have a lot of gain and it's over the top, you're not going to be strumming like, Cat Stevens. I mean, it's just not going to work for you. But when you start backing it down, all of a sudden you hear the guitar open up a little differently, and you don't feel quite, the strings don't push quite the same way, because in the case of a vintage amp, you're not hitting it as hard, you're not getting that compression, you don't feel it, so you react. You can feel it under your fingers. And that's what the pedals do. Our pedals do that. So I heard you change your style right away as soon as you backed the gain off. You just just got into the rhythm sound, and you were doing a little Vaughan there and stuff, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It definitely, and I've had that happen, especially getting to know a new maker or something, like in this case where backing off the volume back and forth, especially on fuzzes, it does change the way you attack something, as you guys have noticed.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of fuzz, tell us about the Alien Twister and where this came from, because that's a nice one right there. I like it.
That was the second pedal. We got an old square face fuzz that Stevie Ray Vaughan used to use.
Which we don't know how it happened.
Yeah, we didn't.
Whoa.
One day, this pedal showed up in the studio, and whoever had come in, I had asked the bands that were in, before, and I say, fellas, somebody left this here. No, it's not mine, Joe. I'm like, to this day, I don't know exactly how it found its way into the collection of what we have. I don't.
But
it's cool. But it only did one thing.
It did one thing when it's typical of an old fuzz in the way they were designed. If you dime it, it's there, and as soon as you manipulate your guitar or the fuzz in any way, it just goes away. So what we did was that sound was kind of cool. So I said, all right, let's try and take that, redesign the whole entire circuit, and kind of mimic that, but let's like go one step further, and the whole premise to that was making it kind of a Stratocaster's best friend, because these days Stratocasters, I mean, they come in all different, you know, configurations and necks and pickups, especially the pickup. But back in the day, they were not known for sustain. They actually didn't sustain very well at all. That wasn't really the design aspect behind the guitar, I don't think. But we wanted to make a Strat's best friend, you know, like a pedal that you'd want to plug your Strat into, and that's but it's more than that. So if you look at the controls, first off, if you've been fooling around with it, the one thing you're definitely going to notice is that there's a tremendous amount of output gain in that. I mean, at 10 o'clock you're at unity gain already, and that's not an accident. And the reason for that is when you get it, the input knob, which acts the same as the control knob on your guitar, but we figured we'd put one on the circuit and tie it in with the output. What it does is that as you're lowering the input, you're reducing the input signal, obviously, so you need to make up for that. So you increase the output. You need a lot of output gain, and it has to be clean gain too, because it can get very noisy quickly. The stability control at the end is a voltage regulator, and what you could do with that is that as you turn that down, you're starving voltage to the final collector of the final transistor in the signal chain. So when you starve it voltage, it's going to start to cut out, and you're not basically, that's due to the fact that you're just not feeding that transistor properly. But the fuzz is usually a fuzz. I'm going to get a little technical, and then I'm going to stop because I don't like to get technical when I speak. I really do like to just stick to the music and everything. But a fuzz typically at the collector or the final stage loves to live around 4.5 volts, let's say. If you increase that stability control all the way, you're going to be up around over 7 volts. And what starts to happen to the signal, if you look at it under a scope, is you'll see it start to round off again. So actually, it starts to become more articulate and less square and less distorted. So when you drive that stability control up, those Strats, especially those old Strat notes, just start to ring. And when you start to take the input control down, it becomes a very, very effective overdrive. And then, of course, you increase the output proportionately. And if you take the input down even more, you can get that input down to around 3 o'clock. And try it. I mean, try it and just increase the output and make sure your stability control is way up. Turn that sucker way up. Yeah, you have to, because then you'll be starving it. You know, the voltage would die too much. But now see what happens with this, and think Vaughan when you're playing it, kind of. Or think like
Vaughan?
Stevie Ray.
Oh, actually, you should do
I
it.
guess maybe I should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy Buchanan. I mean, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. That's it. And where's the input at?
It's at 3 o'clock.
Oh, put it at 12.
12.
Yeah, trust me. Now do it. Now try it. And take it down even more.
Yeah.
Try it at 10. Right, seriously, try it at 10. There you go. And then I can hear it clean up even more. Now think, and even like milk the notes out. Like even think a little bit more chordally. Like just strum like some of that beautiful, like Lenny, like some of the things that he did. You know that those beautiful chord work that he did. And you'll hear it open right up.
You're overestimating my Stevie Ray Vaughan game.
I mean, look at how low your input knob is.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound thin or anything. It was designed to be extremely versatile. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a fuzz that can do that. You can open that up and just blow someone out a door with it. And you could take it down even further and back your guitar up a little bit and put your rhythm pickup on, and just think sweet little, minor seventh chords and little, diminished. And it will not sound bad, yeah. I just want to say one thing too. It really does depend on the amplifier you're using too. You've got the Boogie. That's a hot amp to begin with.
Yeah.
You plug that pedal into an older Ampeg or a Fender, or even some of the newer Fender ones like the DeVille and the Deluxe, the newer ones that they have out. It'll be different. The Boogies are hot. They want to run.
Yeah.
So but then again, that might be what you're after, But if you want to hear that pedal change, just get into the ramp and plug it into it, and you'll see it. You'll hear it change, drastically in some cases.
Right on. It's definitely a very, very killer fuzz. Now, tell us about including the buffer on and off, and why a buffer is important to a fuzz.
Oh yeah, well, depending on if you have impedance issues within the signal chain, some fuzzes, if they're not voiced right, and if you put a wah-wah, let's say, in front of it, and the impedance isn't right, you won't get the throw from the wah. You won't hear that whip. And that's why that buffer is in there, because usually fuzz and wah go like hand in hand. Like there's an awful lot of players that just love to combine the two. Yeah. And we felt we needed one in there because most players don't understand what a buffer is and what's going on. And they just start, putting more and more pedals together in a signal chain. And it just doesn't work that way. Electronically, you start, your high end starts to suffer, and you don't get, like I said, if it doesn't see that impedance, it won't throw properly. So we figured we put it out in the open with a big foot switch, so that we could have put it inside and you could have toggled it on and off that way, decided whether or not you needed it in your rig. But at the time, it just seemed like that was a big thing with Joe.
Well, I actually had guys come in here like with pedal boards that are really like, wow, like how many more pedals could you put on a board? And then some of the stuff is really very mismatched. And when I've literally taken the pedal, put it in the head of the chain, hit the buffer, and it just cleans it right up. It really doesn't. I just want to give a quick shout out, if you guys don't mind, for that pedal, a champion of it, because people didn't get it and they missed so much of it. But there's a fellow named Tony Pascal who, if anybody's familiar with the show Duck Dynasty, all the soundtrack on that and all the guitar was pretty much done by Tony Pascal. And Tony actually discovered us. He actually he wasn't the first, maybe the second video on the Fuzz Bubble 45 on our first pedal. And he's a great guitarist and a great guy. And he used the Twister. Oh, he uses all our pedals on the show and continues to use them, but the Twister, especially when he was doing all the slide work on the show. And it was a funny show, but if you listen to it, the music on it and all the transitions are really fantastic. Yeah. And 90% of what he did there was slide, and that pedal was all over it. So if you were a fan of the show, if you happen to catch a clip of it and you hear that, that's the Fuzz Bubble. That's the Twister doing its thing, So just so you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
And how did Joe Walsh find you guys?
Well, we finally had gotten picked up by Sweetwater, which is a great company, and they've been great to us. And there was a sales fellow there named Kenny Burgle, and Kenny's a great guy. We met him the very first time we went, and he was telling us stories about the Who, and we were like friends in 5 minutes. He was one of those guys. And Joe Walsh happened to be a client, and he said, "I think Joe Walsh will love this rumble seat. Can we send him one?" And I said, "Well, sure. I said, if you want, expecting that, he's like, I'm telling you, he's gonna love it, and it's gonna be great, and he's gonna call you guys, and it's gonna be wonderful." And I'm like, he's Joe Walsh. It's like, he's not gonna care. But oh my God! So he sent it to Joe, and a couple weeks later, it was actually right before we had gone, the night before we were going to leave for the NAMM show.
He sent it to Joe, and then Joe bought 3.
No, wait, right. So we got he
went on the road with the Eagles with them.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. So
sorry.
He cut me off. So he said,
damn it.
Kenny.
I'm fired.
Kenny actually texted us he called us the night before we left for the NAMM show and said, Joe said, this is I wouldn't say exact, but this thing's great, Kenny.
Bleep, great, amazing pedal.
And so that was it. And so he went on the road with the Eagles to Australia. They were gone for a couple of months, and then lo and behold, I came back in to the office like 2 months later, and there was a message on the answer machine. Click, and it was him. And I will do a little imitation. It was like basically like, "Hey guys, this is Joe Walsh," and then just silence. And then he was like, "Guys, this really is Joe Walsh. Listen, I really like your stuff, and it's really good." And Kenny was right. He goes, I love this rumble seat. He said, but I need a compressor, and I want to work with you guys. I think you get me, and I get you guys, and this is going to be good. So give me a call. This really is Joe Walsh. It was like, at first I thought it was getting playing on us. Honestly, I thought it was a joke, and then I was like, I listened to it again. I'm like, oh my God, like I've heard Joe enough to know his voice, and I'm like, wow, that's really Joe Walsh. So. After I calmed down, I called Jack, and then after I peeled him off the ceiling, we're like, we can't be like totally crazy when we call him. So we calmed down, and we called him, and sure enough, it was him, and we gushed for about 5 minutes, and he was like very appreciative. And then we sat down and we talked to business, man. We whipped out the pencil and paper, and we sat there. What do you want? And et cetera, and we went through the whole thing.
Yeah, he's
very meticulous.
Yeah,
Joe is really he gets
very
into
much
every
so.
little thing. And so we built him.
But he knows circuitry too. He didn't really.
He can build his own ham
radio.
radio.
He didn't give us input insofar as how to design it. He just was kind of talking about what he wanted, and he kind of left it up to us. He said, "I trust you to do it. I like what you did." So we went back and forth, and it started as a compressor. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was using like an 1176 on stage. He was using some big stuff, and he never really liked stomp box compressors. And he said, "Let's start there." And we're like, "Okay." And then we sent him a prototype, and he liked it. And he said, "I want to do something else." And we thought, "Well, you don't want a compressor anymore?" He's like, "No." He goes, "Like, you do other things than like one thing in the pedal, so let's do more than one thing." Mm-hmm. And we're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "Well, I'm thinking like an amp too. I want an amp. Like, I heard you did the amp with the rumble seat. I loved it. The fuzz bubble. Like, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, one of your amps I know because I'm a fan was like a 59 Tweed, Fender Deluxe." And he's like, "Okay, let's do it." So we did, and we kind of sent it to him. And then he said, "I'll be in New York. Let's meet." And he was on like a little bit of a layoff of the tour with the Eagles at the time. This is like in 2015. Mm-hmm. And he rang us up and he said, I'm by Central Park. Come on in. Come meet me. Let's talk now. Let's bring the final prototype. Come up to my hotel room. Let's hang out. We'll play it, blah, blah, blah. And we did. And it's been a great experience on a lot of levels, but primarily really because he really just is such a nice guy. And there was no ego. There was no, he just really wanted to work with us. And it's been a very pleasurable experience, and continues to be so with him. We talk to him from now and again.
He's
and
great.
I think we'll probably be doing something again with him in the future. It looks like it.
I think
but
so,
he introduced us to everyone. The Who. He and Joe and Pete Townsend have been friends for a long, long time. Wow. And Joe was asked to do a big gig, with the Who in Chicago, and he called us because we still didn't have the prototype. But he goes, "Hey man, I'm in Chicago. When are you going to get the pedal?" I said, "We're working on it." He goes, "Well, I got your rumble seat. I got some other stuff." And he never said he was like in Chicago playing with it. He said, "I'm in Chicago." I said, "Well, have a nice time." He's like, we said it because it was on like a speaker, like a conference like we're doing with you guys now. He's like, "Yeah, I plan on it." And the next day I look on Facebook and he's on stage with Eddie Vedder. And then the kicker was Joan Jett. It's like these platinum albums. They're from Joan. We did a lot of work with her, and we remixed a lot of stuff for Guitar Hero. And we had to remix I Hate Myself for Loving You here in the studio. And Joan goes back with the Who, and she knows all those guys too. And Pete and Roger asked her to join the tour at that time. So it was crazy because we really met Joan, and we know Joan and stuff like that. So it was really nice. So then before you knew it, we were just introduced to the Who, and they're like, "Well, we're coming to Long Island. You want to meet us and bring some pedals down?" And that's how the whole thing started.
This is one of our.
Oh yeah, that's.
Oh wow.
Nice. Pete gave us from Michael K. And this is one of our other favorite picks from Joan Jett.
Yeah. So they give us
cool.
But they were great to us. I mean, the Who were fantastic. I mean, they just
such great guys.
Yeah, they really were so hospitable and everything.
Pino Palladino's a gentleman.
And that's how Pino started using the bass station.
Well, yeah, because he came on stage during that benefit show, and so it was like, "Joe, what's this?" Because Joe had the pedals on his board. He was like, guy's this analog alien. Like, were you kidding? And he was like, really? He goes, can you set us up? And he was like, sure. He goes, they're great guys. And then he went and talked to Pete, and then Pete and Joan and Kenny were there, and they said, wow, sure, they're good guys. They're good guys. That's really what it was about. They were like, and they loved the gear. They thought it sounded really good.
Yeah, so they invited us down.
They invited us down, so we brought the stuff down, and they put, it was Nassau Coliseum that night. It was the second to last show, and they took one of the bass stations we bought and wired it into Pino's board, and Pino played it in sound check and was like, yeah, sounds great. And we're like, okay, like we weren't sure what was going to happen. And then we talked to this Michael, Michael K was the tech, and he was like, oh, that's good, man. He's going to use it. I'm like, he's going to use it tonight?
Now?
I'm like, so we go back out into the audience, and like, I just like sweating, like, oh my God.
Just waiting for a capacitor to go out or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And then all of a sudden, he played the My Generation solo through it. And for us, I mean, we've been Who fans since I'm like 12. It's like super kids. He Pinball Wizard of My Generation.
Then Tim LaFave from Tedeschi and Trucks got a hold of it. And Susan Tedeschi, believe it or not, is using the Fuzz Bubble. She's been using the Fuzz Bubble for...
Nice, right on.
Has to be about...
Yeah, she's great.
It's close to 3 years now. Yeah, she's been using
nice
it.
People,
yeah.
Great band.
Oh, yeah, they're fantastic, too. They invite us down every time they're in New York. And
I mean, you watch Derek play, and it's just like he doesn't use the stuff, but you watch, it doesn't matter. I mean, he plays, and it's like, oh my God. And as amazing as he is, every single member of that band is just
amazing,
insane.
It's they're a great band.
They're just so good. They're so tight, and they just music just comes from that.
To see him or to hear him like on a video or YouTube, and then to stand like 20 feet from him while he's actually
playing.
It's like he has such a sophisticated. I played some of his SGs. Bobby Teese, his tech, is a good friend of ours. He's like, come on, you can hold it. And the action is nowhere near as high as you would think it is. He just has such a sophisticated touch with that guitar. It's incredible.
Brilliant.
It's incredible.
Brilliant.
It's
such
just
nice.
unbelievable.
It's really nice. I'm serious. Like, to anybody who's watching, if they happen to be in your area, and you can catch the Tedeschi Truck
definitely
band,
go. It'll change
it's worth
you.
the price of admission.
Definitely, no doubt about it.
And they're super great people, and they just play great.
Without a doubt.
I love that music. But anyway, yes.
Right
so okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, these are great stories to share.
Yeah, you guys got some heavy hitters that are fans of yours. That's really awesome to hear.
And I mean, people always want to know, with any particular brand, well, who's using your guys' stuff on tour? Well, let's see, Joe Walsh, Pete Townsend, Joan Jett. Yeah, that's Susan Tedeschi. Yeah, that's an insanely good lineup for artist endorsements. So, and Pino Palladino on the bass side, because the bass station is very, very popular for you guys. But I mean, well, that's some pretty high watermarks of endorsement right there.
Pretty
so
awesome.
yeah.
Before we start wrapping up, what are you guys working on? And what's like a top secret next kind of thing?
Modulation.
All rad.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we're going to do, but typical of what we do, it just won't be a chorus pedal. It's going to have to be like, and we've got some things that are planned, and you'll be the first to know. We'll come back to it.
I've actually been in the market for modulation lately, so I'm very excited to see what you guys do.
Cool.
Yeah, let's hope you
we
guys
are
like
too.
it.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. You guys have really been terrific. It's been great dealing with you guys.
Yeah,
great
EnterTalk
having you guys.
rocks.
Right
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have you guys on again. Take care, and again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Paul.
And
Thanks for
awesome
Good
work.
night, okay? Oh, I like that. You should have seen more of that. What
Oh,
kind of
that-
pickups do you have in that?
Yeah, Lindy Fralin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah. Wow. Good for you.
Good
he
stuff.
makes great pickups.
What's in that one, Eric? What do you got there?
These are made by Electrical Guitar Company, who made the guitar, but they're P90s designed by them. Quietest P90s I have
My favorite
ever.
pickup.
He loves the P90.
Yeah, I'm a
Me too.
P90 nut.
Are they quiet? Because they seem pretty quiet for what you
Oh
played.
yeah, they're
They're-
insanely quiet.
That's awesome.
It's got the aluminum neck there. That's a pretty bitchin' guitar.
Yeah, aluminum neck and body, all
Yeah.
made by the same company,
Oh, I
EGC.
can see- Oh, I can see the top.
picture's
Look
kind
at
of
the
small
top.
here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
bring
got
it
the
in, man.
slit. Yeah, let me see
Just
that.
check it out.
Oh,
Hey, you're my
okay.
camera. Come on.
There we go. Sorry, yeah.
That's it. Oh, he's going to do it. Paul's got it. Wow,
There we are,
I
yeah.
didn't realize that. That's like a Travis Beam. Wasn't that like, there was a bass guitar company back in the 80s, and you guys were probably
Yeah,
not.
Travis Bean and Mark McElwee. Yeah, and actually Kevin Burkett of EGC bought from Travis's widow, Travis Bean, and now does Travis Bean Designs, continuing him on.
Yeah,
as
Earl
well as
Bass played
these.
that one. It was a very hip guitar.
Very hip.
Yeah.
Very cool. You guys are great, man.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. We really do appreciate it.
No
Thanks
worries.
for talking to us.
For sure.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us on.
All right,
Have a
we'll
good later,
catch you
guys.
on soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We got to thank Joe and Jack for coming on to the show and showing us their wares with the Fuzz Bubble 45, the Bucket Seat, and the Alien Twister. All incredible pedals with lots of utility, a lot more under the hood
And now
than one would think.
we kind of see where all the personality in the pedals is coming from.
Yeah, those are two incredible brothers with some awesome stories and a lot of awesome connections.
Yeah. I'm glad to see they're doing so good.
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll get to see more of them.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing more stuff from them. Modulation, a
Yes.
chorus that doesn't sound like every other chorus out there. I'm on board.
I'm already hooked. I'm
Yeah.
already in for it. But go to analogalien.com or analogalienfx.com. Well, it'll be right below in the
Google
link
it.
along with the
It's
contact. You can just check out Analog Alien Effects. Google it. You'll find them. Thank you very much for joining us.
And don't forget about the contest. These
Yes.
guys right here are not spoken for yet, so go to click the link below this video. Go sign up. Get a chance to win these or a ton of other prizes that we're going to be giving away over the next few weeks.
And you can also go to pitbullaudio.com. It's on our banners right up top there. And come on in sometime. Check out pitbullaudio.com anytime, really.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Eric Lucero
And I'm Paul Berezetsky.
of Sharpen the Axe on EnterTalk Radio, powered by Pitbull Audio.